There's been an awful lot of stuff that just ain't true in the West Ham news in the last few days. We'll clear a little bit of that up. There's a couple of transfer rumours as well. And I think just a really, really odd thing for Harry Maguire to say about West Ham. And he's named West Ham. He called us a massive club. There's a lot of smoke being blown up our arse at the moment, by the way. But it's really weird. I think sometimes when some of these footballers speak, they sort of assume that everybody is stupid. For their words to actually carry any weight, they've got to think that, oh, you know what? Nobody really knows. Nobody can read between the lines. That lot, they must be stupid. So I'm just going to put out a sound bite and hope that everybody buys it. Anyway, we'll get to that in just a bit. Let's start with Kurt Zouma. There were a lot of Zouma rumours. Remember the old Zouma rumours? At the start of the week that West Ham were preparing to offer the player a new contract. Well, I'll tell you what, that one got stopped in its tracks pretty suddenly. Claret & Hugh contacted the club, a top source at the club, you know it is, and basically they were told, well, it's not happening. He will not be getting a new contract. There's an option to extend his contract as it is, but at the moment, the club are a little bit concerned about his knees, concerned about his injury, really. It sort of begs the question, would anybody be able to buy him anyway? I've thought for quite some time, you'll have heard me say on a number of occasions, Kurt Zouma's broken. I don't mean it in a detrimental way. I still think he can perform really, really well for West Ham, but perform in a way that Ledley King performed for Tottenham, that Paul McGrath, who finished his career at Aston Villa, didn't he? The way he basically didn't train, but he would get patched up, and even though he was constantly playing through an injury. And I think for the rest of his time and the rest of his career, never mind at West Ham, Kurt Zouma will be playing, with a limp. Look, Ledley King was never going to pass a medical anywhere else. Kurt Zouma probably won't pass a medical anywhere else. But West Ham were basically saying, look, he's got dodgy knees. This is it. We're not going to be offering him a new deal. That doesn't mean, by the way, that West Ham won't extend his stay. What it means is they're not going to be in a hurry right now to offer him a deal, another 3-4 years or something like that. They're going to let him get to the end of his contract, and they're probably going to say, do you know what, do you want to sign on for another year, another 2 years, something like that, because I think he's at such high risk of permanently not being able to play football with his injury being so bad that, they're just not going to be prepared to offer him a big contract. And they probably wouldn't get insured for it either. I think that's the other thing to remember. But yeah, there's no big news that Zouma's leaving just because he's not getting offered a new contract. But the club have said themselves, no, he's not being offered one. Loads of Jarrod Bowen stuff, all positive, which is really good, isn't it, as far as that's concerned. I would expect him to play on Friday, actually. Maybe I'd have a little Jarrod Bowen watch, let you know how it's gone on. So the friendly against the Aussies, isn't it, on Friday? And then we've got the more important game against Italy, which is a couple of days later. But maybe it's on the Tuesday. I don't expect him to play in that unless he's absolutely brilliant against Australia. I think he might be. I wouldn't be surprised if he scored in that game, actually. But you definitely get the impression, don't you, that Gareth Southgate's got his favourite team. And you know what? I don't massively have a problem with that. There are such incredibly good players at the moment for England. It's very, very hard to get into. All you can do is ask to be in the squad and be in and around it and prove himself over a period of time. I'll tell you what, let's get to, actually, I'll get to Harry Maguire in a minute. Let's just deal with the Tomas Soucek stuff, because this is a really, really weird one as well. Start of yesterday, a rumour started spreading that Tomas Soucek's going to go to Inter Milan. It was all over. It started on Caught Offside, which is probably my least favourite, least trusted publication. Let's put it that way. A lot of other websites started picking up on it as well. And it had actually come from Caught Offside, but the Italian media were running with it as well. And they were all saying that he was going to leave for Inter Milan. He's going to have talks with Inter Milan in January. And they were actually reporting, a lot of the websites reporting, that news that he'd signed a new contract in August were false. That actually he had never signed a new contract, and he was free to talk to new clubs from January, and his deal expired at the end of this season. Once again, the club were contacted, and they absolutely said that's not the case. So I understand it. He signed a 4-year deal with a 1-year option. So you can just discount all of that. It is completely and utterly false. I'm not saying that Tomas Soucek will never go to Inter Milan. That's not what I'm saying. But these reports that he's going to sign for Inter Milan in January, and they were all founded on inaccurate evidence. That is just not the case at all. And you've just got to look at it. He's really happy. He's really happy at West Ham. You can see that in his demeanour. He's back to his old self. The co-owner wants him to stay, in Daniel Kretinsky, and clearly he's a massive part of David Moyes'. Never mind plans. Plans makes it sound like the future. Now he's a massive part of the team. I don't think he's going to start every single game, but he's going to start loads of games. He's going to be a really important player for us. And I think he's in for another good season, isn't he? Really, but more can be discussed another time individually. But yeah, I just wanted to say that's not true at all. Not I think a lot of you believed it, but it was a funny one. So let's get to Harry Maguire. Do you know what? I'm going to put it off again. Let me just tell you one other thing. We've been linked with Real Madrid. Real Madrid sort of a winger, plays as a forward sometimes. Brahim Diaz, there's been rumours that we might be looking to sign him. I think he spent a long time on loan, AC Milan, 90-odd games, that we might bring him in to use him as a forward. Just can't see it, quite frankly. 5'7", diminutive player. Can't see him being a centre-forward under David Moyes. But hey, look, it's an interesting story, I guess. Let's deal with Harry Maguire. Harry Maguire said in his press conference for England that the guy is under a lot of pressure, and I'm not. Harry Maguire can be an easy target, and I'm not looking to dig him out unnecessarily. But hey, look, in the press conference he spoke about West Ham, but I guess he spoke about West Ham as he was asked a question. So all we can do is deal with what he said. I do think he's under pressure. He's not. It's almost like Erik ten Hag would rather do anything. He would shoehorn any player into any defensive position rather than play Harry Maguire. Harry Maguire's stuck at Man United. I'll tell you what, it's Harry Maguire's fault, and entirely Harry Maguire's fault. He suggested that the reason he didn't join West Ham was no agreement was come to between the clubs. I don't think it's a fair reflection of the story. I'm not going to call it disingenuous, but I don't feel that's a fair reflection of what's going on. And as I say, it sort of takes us for fools. The general consensus was that Harry Maguire did not want to leave Manchester United because he was waiting for a loyalty payment from them. We don't know what it is. I don't know. I heard figures being suggested. It doesn't really matter what it is. Could be £1 million, could be £10 million. Don't know. But as I understand it, actually the opposite of what he said is true. West Ham United and Manchester United had come to an agreement, but he hadn't secured his payoff. He wanted a payoff. So I feel very much like if that's the case, and I would believe that to be true, Maguire's made a decision not to play football. I tell you, David Moyes would have moved heaven and earth to get Harry Maguire. There was a point early on in the transfer window where he said, no interest in going to West Ham. Moyes still carried on. He still carried on. I know for a fact, well, I say a fact as much as I can do, that David Moyes spoke to Harry Maguire's representatives. Not Tim Steidten, not on the jet. No, David Moyes spoke to Harry Maguire's representatives. Moyes really, really wanted him. The club were willing to back him to a point. And they were happy to meet whatever Manchester United want. It was, I don't know, you'll never know, but somewhere between 20 and 30 million. But Harry Maguire was holding out. And now he finds himself in a position where he's being sort of hauled across hot coals to sit next to Gareth Southgate in an England press conference and justify why his manager has included him in the squad again. And all he can do is make up this sort of stuff to say, well, there was never any genuine offer from West Ham. They never came to an agreement with Manchester United. It's absolute rubbish. The deal was there. The deal was there to be done. The problem wasn't with Manchester United. The problem wasn't with West Ham. Look, Harry Maguire was the issue there. Ten Hag wanted him to leave. David Moyes wanted him. Man United agreed. West Ham agreed. The reason he's stuck at Man United is that. And I just as I say, this whole little West Ham news update is basically, I think, been saying this ain't true, that ain't true, that ain't true, and that ain't true. Well, there you go. But listen, it's not all bad news, is it? Let's be fair. We've got Jared Bowen to look forward to. It's just fingers crossed he doesn't get injured. I'll be back tomorrow with no more false news tomorrow. It'll either be true news or we will have a conversation about what David Moyes has got planned for the January transfer window, but the club have suggested there's no money available. I don't believe it.